Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 17th episode of The Treat Show. Tonight we've got myself, J-Lo, and OG Tyler, of course, in the studio. We have a very special guest as well joining us. This is one of my favorite guests yet. Tyler, do you want to shout it out?
Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, we
All
have
right.
Swerve in the building.
We've got Swerve in the building. And Swerve, for those that don't know, is Cali Connection Seed Company. I'll give Swerve now a moment to shine.
I appreciate it. I'm just grateful to be here. I appreciate the chance to come on, and I look forward to throw some heaters at me. I'm ready to bat here. So ask away. Don't be shy. That's the best part about these type of things is you know the authenticity about it. So don't be shy, JLo. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and Tyler, man, nice to meet you. And
Nice to meet you, man.
can't wait to have some good discussions. So
That really means so much to me. I feel like it's a hard thing being in the industry for as long as you have. Is being an OG in it, you're gonna have rumors or things that I think happen along the way with partnerships. It's a tough industry, and I hope that we can touch on some things that clear up some of the rumors tonight.
yeah, by all means, don't like I said, don't be shy. Ask away. I'm here to answer any questions, and I'm an open book for lack of a better term. So
Nice.
I love that.
Well, sweet. So where exactly did you grow up?
I grew up in the lovely San Fernando Valley, the SFV, first generation here in America from Italy. So my dad was actually born in Italy. Everybody, my entire family is all Italian, both sides, mom and dad, which is kind of cool because it gave me the chance to have an Italian passport. But yeah, I'm SFV, A18, Cali as it gets, man. So I'm born and raised in the SFV.
Dang. Did both your parents did they meet in Europe or
No, ironically enough, they actually met in Burbank. My dad, he's a handyman, and he actually went over to my grandma's house one day, unbeknownst, they didn't know each other, obviously, to fix a toilet or something like that. And, it was like one of those, oh, wow, hey, wow, and kind of, I think, really what played a major role in it was the fact that my dad is from Bari and my mom is from Bari. So, back in their stories, back in the olden days, they're like 2 hours apart from each other, 3 hours up hills and snow and sleet and mud. And reality is it's like a 30-minute drive, from each other. But obviously this is modern day times compared to then, back in the day. But the reality is yeah, they're close by. So my grandma, I'm sure, probably pushed my mom more towards my dad at that point. And yeah, that's kind of the way that all worked out. So it's just here in Burbank, but what I mean, yeah, it's just I guess fate, that they would meet, 3, 4 thousand or 7, 8 thousand, 9,000 miles away.
Oh my gosh.
dang, that's crazy.
That's a love baby if you've ever seen one.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Did did you basically just kind of stay in that San Fernando Valley area all like growing up, like getting into high school and all that type of thing?
Yeah, life was pretty good for a bit. My dad actually, worked, got a job. The huge portion of my family worked over at Universal Studios here. So, like, even my grandma, she worked as a seamstress there for 35 years. My dad was in the maintenance department for 35 or 40 years. Family all throughout. Still some family that actually works at Universal and within the Universal Corporation. Some high, some, just still doing their thug thizzles. Um, so that's kind of where that, say went. Um, can you guys hear me still? I look like I'm kind of like in and out.
You kind of
No, I'm
froze
so
for
glad.
you froze for a
Yeah.
second.
I noticed that. I was like, wait, oh, did I freeze here?
I'm so
Um,
sorry. I think we're cruising now.
yeah, no, and unfortunately, that lost my train of thought. All of a sudden, I was like, frozen. So I was like, wait, are we talking? Um,
Gosh, Swerve, I'm so sorry. Hate when this freaking stuff happens with technology.
that's
You
technology.
you were talking about Burbanks, right? And
Your family working at Universal.
Yeah. So that's kind of, where it all, I guess you could say, a lot of it happened was where all of them kind of converged and everybody, you, I guess, I'm trying to think here where I was even going with this thought. So unfortunately, I got derailed.
oh
Well,
no,
yeah,
we
yeah.
all smoke. I feel like, well, you were talking about LA and how you're so deep rooted into that spot as well, though, with like your family being there so long and working with Universal.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, that aspect, yes. So everybody has been here in the SFV the entire life. The travel thing and being like kind of stuck in the box that I call the SFV. Grew up here, like I said, high school all throughout. Unfortunately, didn't really get out of the SFV until I was okay. Like, let me be honest here. Like,
Mm.
obviously, we're in LA, so we're 2 hours from the border. So everybody's gone to TJ.
Oh,
Everybody's done the TJ thing.
Right.
That's not really considered traveling to me. So,
mm.
like, staying in the box of what I call the SFV, didn't really get out of it until I was 22 when we actually first went to Italy. And then we actually got to meet, like, my great aunt who still lives there, who's still alive. She's 96 years old. And then, like, a huge portion of our family that was still there. And kind of meant way more and expanded the horizon, I guess you could say, growing becoming a young adult. Because growing up, like I said, it was just a box. Had the tumultuous family split up when I was 12. Mom and dad broke up, so
Oh,
life wasn't the easiest in high school. Obviously, all of us had those crazy, high schools. Come on, we all smoked pot. My high school was in the 90s, so we it was a little different for us. We had at the time here in Los Angeles, we had the riots going on. So,
oh my gosh.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
literally went to school with the one of the guys who beat the living shit out of Rodney King, one of the cops. I went to school with his son.
Oh my gosh.
Golly.
Yeah,
Can you?
yeah.
I can't imagine too, like going through a divorce. Like my parents like split up when I was really young, but I think for people to at 12, that would be a really difficult age. I imagine to go through that though. And do you think, Swerve, that had like anything to do with what kind of like introduced you to cannabis later or anything? Or
Well, okay, so technically no, and the reason being is growing up 2 doors down, there was a very good family friend, and he was my friend as well. Like the son was my friend, the dad was friends with my father.
oh,
He was, I think he's like 5 years older than me, 4 years older than me. So, I'm a 12-year-old boy, and we're all camping up in Sequoia National Forest, and I got, high schoolers with me. So obviously, let's see where this is headed. Hey, man. So that was the first time I learned what a gravity bong was. And then I learned what weed looked like because they almost got in trouble smoking weed. And obviously, who do we give the weed to? The 12-year-old who's not going to be suspected of, having weed. So they hand me all the weed. So then that night, they ended up getting me. The first time you get high, you're high, but you're not high, but you're kind of high, but you're more psycho high, psychoactively high.
yeah.
So we got all hella stoned, and that was kind of the beginning from there. So it wasn't even high school that had anything to do with it. In high school, I was already blazing chronic, and I walked into high school like, all right, who's got the best weed in this school? Me and you need to become friends, and because I was cheating. I had an older friend who, he was already in high school. He already showed me what chronic was. I had a couple older cousins who were heavy metal guitarists and in a heavy metal band. So obviously,
That group.
so I had access.
Nice.
Do you remember Swerve like some of those strains? Because you said the '90s. Do you remember like if you, especially that young, I suppose. But do you remember like seeing a certain strain or like anybody talking about anything that was really popular at that
Um,
time?
at the time it was just Indo
Mm.
and stress, you know, and that's really what it was. It was either you got some brickweed that had a bunch of sticks and stems and seeds in it, or you got the Indo.
Mm.
And then the Indo changed everything, because it was that indoor weed. Didn't have names just yet. Then all of a sudden it went from Indo to chronic. And, that was like 95, 94 range, 95. Yeah, it was probably like Indo chronic. And then 96 was when all of a sudden there was Bull Rider and Afghani and different names started to appear, bubblegum
Wow.
and juicy fruit and different names all of a sudden. I'm sure the names existed prior, but like here in the valley, that's kind of what we started to get. And my cousins were in the San Gabriel Valley, the SGV, and so they were getting the Afghani and then the Bull Rider.
The
So,
bull rider.
yeah, the old school Bull Rider. This shit it was an Afghani, but
Ooh.
back then these things were orange haired with these crazy huge silver trichromes, because it was all indoor weed.
Gosh. That's like I've never heard of bull rider, to be honest. Swerve. That's
Yeah.
it's just so cool to hear you talk about something like that. With that, I don't know. I kind of want to like look into this just because that's just
Yeah,
awesome.
that was all. They were all, like I said, San Gabriel. They're all out. They live in Arcadia and Pasadena area. So that was, that first, uh, those type of flavors, and then I want to say my my boy Jeremy Brown back in the '90s didn't get really the cushes
Mm.
until probably like 96, 97, and then all of a sudden, then my other homie Troy was like, "Yo, bro, I got this stuff. It's a little more expensive than the other stuff, but trust me, you're gonna dig it." And I was like, "What is this stuff?" And he's like, "It's called Kush. It's Bubba Kush." And then all we magenta red hairs, big ass silver trichromes, tasted like Nag Champa, smelled like incense, and got you fucking high as hell. And then all of a sudden, our other friend um, Kevin Woodland, and his sister Carrie, his older sister, she was always getting this bomb ass weed, and we couldn't figure out what it was. And then finally, all of a sudden, we started to get what was known as the OG. And
Oh.
then I was like 97 range here in the valleys when we started to get the OG. And then from there, it was on. There was OG, and then there was um, the Pure Kush, what we would call the
Mm.
PKs.
I love
And
the pure
then
kush.
yeah, the old Pure Kush, which was teardrop like style calyx, it hit like OG Kush,
Mm.
but tasted like Bubba mixed with OG, like at the time, And then the Purple Kush, which was a buddy of, well, a DJ friend who I used to hook up, Thomas Michael, back in the day. This guy crazy loved fucking Purple Kush, so we always had Purple Kush on deck. But yeah, it was like that was like 97, 98 range. Now we're kind of pushing into the 98 when it came to the Purple Kush and whatnot. You know,
Do you think that because it was such a particular like group and like it seems like you guys were really tight, honestly, like within that community. Do you think the community Swerve was like smaller back then, where you guys like kind of gravitated to each other?
Ironic enough, now I don't think so. I mean, maybe because more like, for example, where my the other OG Kush that we would get in the valley for was through our buddy Robbie, who
Mm.
worked at Little Pleasures Smoke Shop. So we actually kind of did the old school way. If you think about it, we met the dude that worked at the smoke shop selling the bongs and became friends with the guy selling bongs. And that's how we ended up getting one of our killer connects here in the valley. Like his OG was hands down better than almost everybody else's OG.
Dang. I feel like if you could find a plug like that,
Absolutely stellar. back then, especially, yeah, because it was different. It was different. It was different weed at the time. You're talking $5,000-6,000 pounds.
Mm,
You know, $7,000 pounds, and you're like, the hell do you mean that much money for a pound? $100 an ounce, like $100 for an eighth of weed.
gosh.
But it was good. $500 an ounce all day long, but you could stick it to the wall. Like, it was quality chronic, but that was that was growing up in the SFV. I hate to say it like that. It sounds so like kind of snooty and snobby, but this is Hollywood. It's like the best way that I explain to people. I'm like, when was this Hollywood? Everything came into LA. It didn't matter where you thought that it came from or where it did come from. Once it hit LA turned it into LA, and LA did LA's things with it. And just like we do with all the Midwesterners that come to LA to become famous movie stars, they either become a famous movie star or they become a great server.
Mm.
You
You-
know,
I have a question actually from the chat. Shout out to Hetty Bread. He wanted to ask you, Swerve, about Super Kush in San Diego was fire. Reminded me of Sour Bubble. I think it was the Pure Kush renamed. Ask him, please.
I mean, you know what? I'm not too sure. It would depend on where that was, like what shop. If it was like Beach, or I'm trying to think of what the other dude's shop was, because there's two guys that were actually pretty legit down in San Diego. One guy was a little further up on the more northern side of Pendleton and San Onofre, was where he had his thing. It was south of Newport, though, so it wasn't in Newport. It was by where all the swallows are, the San Juan Capistrano um,
Ooh.
area. And then the other dude had a shop in San Diego over by San Diego State SDSU. That dude, the SDSU guy, his stuff was, he had some of the more consistent, better genetics and real deal genetics than almost anybody down in San Diego. Sour Bubble, on the other hand, that's a bog creation. That's one of the oldest, grower. That's one of the oldest American, brands. I guess you could technically say, like, international American brands. Hands down, one of the oldest.
Did you know that, Tyler?
No.
I didn't know that. I think that's phenomenal to like see, because that's what I admire so much about you as well, is that you really have been in it so long, and you've been one of the only. I've heard swear from so many people that like you go back to like the earliest trade shows and have traveled not just in the United States but out of the country for really building and pursuing your company. And it's crazy to me because how young were when you really decided that you wanted to do this, or was there a particular time that you were like, I'm gonna be a breeder, or I'm gonna I'm gonna stay in the cannabis scene pursuing this thing.
Um, there was a moment of time for the breeding, yes. Prior to that, it was just a hobby. I just wanted to have bomb ass OG Kush and bomb ass weed to always smoke, so I sourced and whatnot, and traded. And then I noticed that the shops were starting to come up here in the valley in 2002, 2003.
Gosh.
And I realized that there was a need for the genetics, like, to be kind of spread out, because everybody was holding their own and nobody wanted to share, and everybody was very, very, this is mine and I don't want to let go of it.
Mm.
Um, so I saw that and was, I guess you could say, I took the opportunity and took a hold of that opportunity, and quit my actual job then and there for the most part. And at that point in time, I was a video editor, compression engineer, and I worked in the porn industry though, so it's not like it was great, like so I worked in the porn industry because this is the Valley, this is the 818, man. Everything was shot in Chatsworth, California. If you look at all the old porn, shot in Chatsworth, California.
Oh my goodness. I
You
would have
know,
never
so
known.
yeah, so that's what I did, and then I sold a for basically almost 3 weeks of pay. And it was that moment in time I realized I could be doing something else here. And then that's how Swerve's Cuts became and came about. And then I got my not license at the time because it wasn't really a license yet. It was, the
Mm.
nonprofit. So we did that, and then we tried to do edibles as well. Um, and then yeah, from there it just kind of exploded. Um, a gentleman by the name of I hate giving him credit like any type of props and whatnot, so it's always stinging. But Res Dog, so Reservoir Seeds, Greg, he got ROG and our Bubba in a trade when I got some of his moms as well as the entire Chem family.
Mm.
And then because of all of that, that's where there was a decent amount of issue that had then arose between me and him. And that is when I decided to contact two different people. I contacted a gentleman in the world of online marijuana back in the day as Grateful Head,
Mm.
uh, and offered to send him my genetics and do a seed company with him
Wow.
to beat Res Dog to the punch.
Mm.
And I offered Captain Crip the same thing. So it turned out Grateful Head was a friend of Res Dog's and ran to Res Dog and told him what happened. And the other dude said, okay, let's do that. So then I jumped into my first breeding project with Captain Crip
Wow.
and Kryptonite Seeds. And we
Okay.
released the SFV OG BX1 and then the Bubba BX1s. He brought the seeds to Amsterdam, sold a bunch of them, never sent me a dime, never gave me any money. Built a nice little reputation off of my stuff, and then I just sat back one day and I was like, you know what? In life, everybody needs a connection. I'm Italian. It's not about what you know; it's about who you know. You're never gonna get anywhere unless you know people.
Mm.
You're never gonna get things done unless you connect the dots. Everything in life has a connection in a way. And in
Do
the
you?
world of weed, everybody wants that Cali connection because that Cali weed is that fire weed.
So
So
true. Do
out
you
came the
think?
Cali connection.
I'm so sorry, Swerve. Is I just wanted to ask you while we were touching on it really fast. Is with Rise Dog, do, like, do you think that the issues kind of began with like when you're exchanging mothers like that, and it's such like an exclusive like privilege amongst each other? Um, do you think that there was like a breach of trust, like within like giving it to somebody else or trying to take credit for?
No, he just didn't want to offer any credit for like onto us, and then instead chose to talk shit about us or talk shit about me. Not a, there's no us at the time. It's just a me. So that's how that one worked. He was a very combative individual.
So, sorry about all that.
So sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
It's life, it just throws you curveballs, and
Hey, it's technical difficulties, man. That's the way it goes.
that's
Swerve,
it.
I am so sorry.
So I knew where we were. You were coming into talking about how you got the name Cali Connection.
Yeah. Oh, good times. Yeah, but yeah, that was it. It was pretty much just realizing that Res Dog had Cali's genetics and was starting to breed with Gypsy Nirvana at the time. Because C Bay was one of the biggest at the time. An IC Mag, and it was all Gypsy. So that's kind of how the birth of the Cali connection ended up being what was caused by, I guess you could say, Res Dog mixed with Captain Crip, from Kryptonite, But yeah, it's kind of the beginning stories of it all.
When when was your first trip to Amsterdam?
As as a competitor or as a
Oh.
recreationist.
You could do both.
So when I first went to Italy in 2002, um, we uh, we not in 2002. We learned a lot about the area and what certain events that my dad was wanting us to experience. So 2 or 3 years later, I think it was 2004, 2005. We went back, and it was just a guys' trip. So at that point in time, me, my cousin, and my brother decided to Eurorail travel throughout Europe, and we ended up meeting my other friends in Amsterdam for the Cannabis Cup. And that was when I learned that the Cannabis Cup was not everything that everybody said it was. So you had to go around to the different coffee shops and buy the weed. And if you wanted to cast a ballot, you actually had to go to the I don't know if it was at the Melkweg or if it was at the Astrodome or at the time, but you had to like go and literally drop it off at places. And it was a sad realization that shit, I thought this was like something that you're gonna get a bunch of weed to try and judge and all this shit, and just because you got a judge's pass doesn't mean that you're gonna get to judge the actual weed, because that was all done on the back end, and that I learned years later being a seed company when I competed, so the
Ooh.
first time, my first introduction to it was absolutely like, holy crap, this is trash, this is shit, what the hell? You guys are
Mm-hmm.
like making everybody buy weed to then think that they're judging. And the answer was is yes, that's what they did, and it was tied in with all the coffee shops and whatnot. Then we fast forward to 2010, was when we first went over there, and I entered, um, and then uh, no, actually, we didn't enter that year. We just went because our entry got seized at the border because
Oh.
we sent it all to DNA shop because Aaron was like, just send it here. So we sent it all there, and everything that they had sent to all got stopped. So we lost out on all of our seeds and everything.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
all at the show and to enter and all that stuff. So we were just, hi, nice to meet you guys. And we're literally our 10 by 10 is sharing a 10 by 20 space with Sensi seeds. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. But yeah, that was technically our first actual cannabis cup in Amsterdam was 2010, and then we had a piece of glass that we did with Mike Fro that we entered into best class and actually won second place best class with it. Uh,
That's what
so
I
that
was
was
gonna. Yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
say. That's crazy.
That is
yeah.
crazy.
And then the following year, we it was more of a hip hop year, and unbeknownst to me, that there was a room, aka like 7 to 10 people, really judging the entries. Um, uh, I thought that the rappers and whatnot were going to be the ones kind of the guest judges.
Mm.
So I entered stuff that I knew that the rappers would like. Some flavorful purple weed that's killer, that gets you high but still allows you to function.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then no, it turned out that was the year that Kosher Kush won. That was the
Damn.
year that the White OG, which was the white crossed the SFVOG BX2 from me, but done by Karma,
Oh.
won. Yeah, I was a little late to that boat, you
Would
know.
it on that is karma, so did you do the cross on that one, Swerve?
No, he just used a male from the seeds that we released.
Oh wow. That's still, yeah. Did he like properly like credit and like release it like with, I
I
don't know.
think he was most surprised at the time that all happened. I think everybody was surprised that all the OGs were finally getting, some weight because, a couple years, the year prior, OG was still very much a non-existent thing out there. And when we brought it out, it was more or less for us to smoke with, obviously DNA, and then our friend John over at Gray Area, and then we made rapper friends through that over, with like Amani and Booty Brown from the Far Side, and random people in Amsterdam because we would bring Cali weed to Amsterdam, and we're like, go home, man, go back to Cali. smoking. They're like, "Oh my god, it tastes like Cali." I'm like, "Yeah, that's because it's from fucking Cali. I brought it here, literally." You know. So, but
Were you? Have you always been tight with DNA?
we were tight, and then we had a pretty heavy falling out, a pretty bad falling out.
Can we talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, it was a very public falling out. Everybody remembers the Get Disconnected shirts. It was a very public falling out, but
Well,
it came from I released the LA Affy, and the LA Affy is the mom to LA Confidential,
mm,
and I asked them not to release a certain OG, and they released the OG anyways, and then all of a sudden we had run into a conundrum of egos. And I fell back on, I'm Italian. I don't really back down from things. And I'm very thick headed and was like, no. And Aaron is Aaron. And Don is Don. And, that's just the way that went. And, now we're cool. Now everything's, everybody's homies and everybody's cool. I saw Aaron actually not long ago at a Dodger game, and, or last year at the Dodger game. It was,
I,
Jesus Christ, holy moly. Or,
I
oh, wow.
I think that's the thing that I want people to like see, like in the community is that like, do you think that? I mean, what originally brought you and DNA together, or you and Aaron together, like, to even come up with like wanting to like work together or do any collaborations, like
SoCal. We're all LA. They're
just
from
natural.
LA. We're from LA. LA. So it was local. So that's what it was. And at the same point in time, that's also the hardest part. We're from LA. It's like depending on which borough you're from up in New York. It's good. It all depends. And it's like LA, SFV. We're very, we're a box, but we're very. We're the home of a lot here. So don't be thinking that just because we're on the other side of the hill of Hollywood, we're
Mm,
to be forgotten about, because 80% of Hollywood lives up in the SFB because it's cheaper. Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's not. Back in the day, it was.
yeah.
So that's that. But and then so it's just the familiarity of local SFV 818, and then being over in Amsterdam, and then I had it a little bit easier of a time getting into Amsterdam because of that thing that I was talking about, being Italian, and my dad and my mom and all that. My dad didn't become a U.S. citizen until I was 6, so I have a passport to Italy as well. So because I hold a dual citizenship between here and Europe,
Gosh.
it was a lot easier for me to work in Europe than a lot of other people. So I could get bank accounts, and I could get businesses started, and I could do everything that a European does because I'm, well, European.
Gosh.
So it was, yeah, man, it was very lucky about that. That's so I can't say anything other than it was just it was fate, and it was meant to be that way. And once that happened, and the realization, and it was a lot easier for me to work in Europe. And that's when I think everything really took off. At that point in time was, we had the ability to have an apartment in Europe, so we had good chronic that we could get to Europe. We had good connections now in Europe that if we needed to get stuff around, we had that ability. So it opened up a lot of doors for, ultimately the Cali connection. And then the following year, we entered and we cleaned fucking house. We won 3 different cups, and then we won third place best coffee shop, which
Mm,
technically everybody knew was first place because Barney's and Greenhouse won first or second every year. It didn't
yeah.
matter. They just would alternate. Is it going to be Dari, or is it going to be Ari? And is it going to be Dari? Is it going to be Ari? You know,
Yeah. I think it's funny behind the scenes how
and
these
there
I've,
is a lot of what is that word? Not biasness, but there's a lot on the back end. There's a lot that takes place that people don't realize. But it's all good. You just got to learn to play the game. And like I said, we figured it out that year, and that 2000, and I think it was 12, just shot us into the moon. So
I,
that was the fun one.
I do want to say, man, because in 2011, you guys still won like 3 awards. They may have not been first, but
Still
I
placing.
think you won a first place with your wax
Yeah, we won with the Buddha. We won with
Tahoe.
the Tahoe. Yeah, I forgot what I called it because of our homie, but or the Buddha's wax or something like that. But yeah, the Tahoe wax. Our boy Buddha out here, homie had a tech at the time that his whip tech was incredible. Couldn't figure it out, and it was just fire, and it tasted just like OG, and it hit you heavy. And
Oh,
yeah, they were tripping out in Europe. They didn't know what it was. Some people literally were like, "Am I gonna die from this? Am I gonna die smoking this?" And it's like, nah, man. It's just it's bomb wax. This is the next level.
you were so ahead of your time.
Yeah, it's wild.
The,
You won first place, and my best friend won third. His name is Nelson, but
Yeah, man.
he had entered like a rascal, but
Yeah.
no, it's cool. It's just crazy. Like that was the time for it was like the start of it. Really, like that. That was really I don't know. It was cool. Like
what?
No, it really was like you're saying the kind of the beginning of it because then they finally got the balls to step it up in the states, and then they did their first one in LA, and then they did their one in San Francisco, and
it changed the
that
game.
was yeah, not only that, but that was also the realization of the choice to jump overseas was the right choice, because I know when it came to be doing the events here in America, we were already established. We were already kind of looked at as like, holy shit, you guys went there, did that there, and then came back here, and you guys are actually from like a part of, and so that was kind of a cool like reception, to have these huge. I mean, we had some crazy big parties up in San Francisco, and we had. I mean, shit, man, look at the drama with the cookies guys, and I mean, everybody liked to pick on little old me, and I just loved to fight with them. It made no sense, you
That's when
know.
you know you're doing it right.
But it was it's I mean, it's like those it's like the hippies that decided to throw Woodstock. It's like the guys that decided to throw their first cannabis cup. It's like the guys that started to realize, if we keep moving in this direction, it's gonna hold and gonna work. And I don't mean that in terms of like I did anything special. I mean that in terms of like I kind of grasped the concept of the European seed companies
Mm.
and brought that to the American soil with the American kind of knowledge, from growing up here, and was like, this is we could do this here. This could happen here because everybody still needs the damn genetics, and that was kind of the cool thing was that reception doing these events, and yeah, people were all about it and loved to get the free weed and loved to get the free seeds and loved to support. So it was pretty cool to see.
Was it difficult for you in the beginning to like I mean honestly like just breeding as a whole like making those first leaps on even trying to pollinate a room or even identifying a male or like was it an accident? Um I don't know. Is there anything from your beginning experiences you think Swerve that
Well,
were
the
kind
first breeding that I ever did, I actually received the pollen. So I got the pollen from Captain Crib, and we used the Afghani number one from Homegrown Fantasies, and I pollinated the room of Ojibwa, and then I searched through those seeds, and that's where the beginning of it all happened. That's when I started to really kind of learn about breeding and the difference of filial generations, and the dramatic differences of phenotypical variation that you get when you start to really do larger populations of grows. People don't realize that. Like 30 seeds is cute, but when you're popping, a couple hundred seeds or, even upwards of a few thousand and you're seeing a dramatic difference of plant structure. You learn a lot. You definitely do, and so it was, the fact that we had Prop 215 here and we were guys by all the recommendations, and I jumped into an 1,800 square foot warehouse, not facility, and we grew the hell out of it. We made a bunch of different rooms because of a friend of mine who grew weed at the time. So he was like, I have to be certain they have to grow like this. So he's the one that did all the rooms. And that is where a lot of the initial breeding and everything took place. I didn't learn anything about feminized seeds until Don and Aaron.
Really?
Yeah, I actually paid a very substantial amount of money for the potion that they utilize, which ultimately came from Sam the Skunk Man or Dave Watson, and
Yeah,
so
that dude apparently makes really good hash too. So like, I mean, he's got tech, I guess.
The thing
uh,
is that the reversals and things like the variations in the spray options that you can use, like we all know like colloidal silver is common and STS and all these things, but I think these ratios and like the timing of actually reversing your plants, a lot of people struggle with, and it is a very big secret. I don't think people realize even that purchase seeds as a whole is how valuable those recipes really are, because for some reason it's something that every breeder is kind of faced with having to adapt to the fem side, and there's really no research like given freely regarding that subject or topic.
yeah, that's very true. And back now 15 years ago or so, 13 years ago, it was even more held and secretive. And the funny thing is when the boys gave me the potion, their method, they actually gave me their method, but by half. So
Oh,
our first few reversals didn't really go as planned because we didn't have the full tech. But then the like third time that we were there, we actually talked to the guy who did a lot of their breeding in Amsterdam, and he's the one that corrected the technique for us. And then we started to have a lot of solid reversals after that, and it was go time from there. And then I'll caveat real quick, shameless plug. We actually have now made it easy for everybody out there. You can now make feminized seeds on your own because we've actually provided a once in a lifetime ability to what? Get our awesome Swerve juice. It's a dry powder of STS, and you can actually make it and mix it yourself. And its shelf life is, I mean, probably about 6 years, depending on when and where you have it stored. But it is a dry product, and you can buy it online, and it will reverse the shit out of your plants, and you can make all the feminized seeds you want.
Swerve.
Okay, shameless plug.
Where can we buy it at?
Yeah, we need to post this on the show.
You could buy it on our website, and right now there's probably about maybe like 10 Hydro stores throughout the country that we stock, and we're trying to push for more. Most people don't really kind of comprehend why people need this, not realizing just how many seed companies there are now and how many people want to make their own seeds.
It's true.
So we've provided that ability now that you don't have to go and buy some shitty colloidal silver and have it to spray your plants for like 3 4 weeks. Fuck that, man. Ours is a 2 spray, rock
Nice.
and roll, and you spray it once and it's pretty good, works like a charm. But then we tell people give it an extra little dose 5 days later and it'll definitely work like a charm. 100% reversals every time, all the time.
Swerve,
um,
would you ever consider coming on this show again where I won't have technical difficulties? Let me start there,
oh,
but
totally.
but where we could talk about like, and you don't have to give us your recipe or anything, but kind of like the components and like how to, I don't know, how to understand this further. I really want to do an episode with a breeder like you that it truly has used this and directly and made a product. Like I feel
Yeah.
like it would be really good to break down a little bit further for people. Like,
Definitely. Like I said at the beginning, I'm very talkative, that's the Italian in me, but I'm also here to kind of just inform and educate. And I've went from the feisty grower breeder to more of the trying to be chill, calm advocate. and trying to be the teacher and to help the modern day generation and the next generation. At the end of the day, we're all in the same boat, man. People don't realize this. We are literally all on the same field. It doesn't matter if you think you're at the front of the line or the back line or in the middle. We're all still technically potheads. We're all still technically weed growers. We're all still technically, doing something that, depending on where you are, is highly illegal.
Yeah.
So, we are all on the same page up until the day that federal legalization takes place. Then it's all a different scenario for a lot of us. But up until then, we're all in the same field.
Do you think this industry, because you've been through so many things, I want to touch on the cookies thing as well, is like, do you think the industry, though, it makes it difficult because the deeper you get into it, passion wise and business and all these things, is I think, like you said, is it can make you angry at certain points of your journey because it just kind of like cuts so deep, or like, it gets so personal, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible to see like how you've recovered, and like, or I mean like recovered these relationships together. It sounds like, with, I don't know, just kind of understanding like how much we change like throughout the years, and like watching each other's companies and all these things fluctuate. I imagine for you has been crazy, Swerve. Like just seeing everybody come and go.
It is pretty wild, like that statement alone right there is pretty wild because yeah, we've seen a lot of people come, we've seen a lot of people go. We've lost a lot of different people, and like, that's the sad part. Rip to a lot of them. Some of the
Yeah.
some of the genuine ones, some of the good ones. That we had definitely lost in the industry. And it's just maybe it is the growing up and growing older. Like realizing that we don't have to fight as much. But back in the day, it was the we were all fighting to give ourselves a fighting chance to be one of the bigger brands when the shit finally goes legal.
Yeah.
If it does go legal, and that's really what it does. That, and then there's the other side of the fence where a lot of us were making more money than we had ever made in our lives. And we didn't know what to do with it because it just went all to our head. Because, I mean, I won't lie. There was times when we would do shows, we would make like executive style yearly salaries in a weekend, you
Gosh.
know, and you're just like you're kind of kidding me, and it's how do you not gain a bigger head, or how do you not gain an ego when you and your boys can do one thing and just absolutely make more money than most people combined at the time.
Mm.
And yeah, it's one of those scenarios where it definitely gives you a feeling of was it you're invincible,
Oh
or you're
yeah.
you
Invincible.
know
You're coming in hot.
invincible, you're invincible. It gives you that feeling because you're like, wait a second here, I'm if shit goes wrong, we have the ability to fight it. You know, Unfortunately, when shit does go wrong, fighting it's a challenge. And I am looking and realizing that my laptop might die here. So if it does die, I could click on my phone because I don't have a cable to plug it in. Unfortunately, it's at my office. Uh, but
Oops.
that was the quick reality. And getting rated multiple times also is one of those things where it's a realization of how, if it wasn't for those awesome six-figure weekends for some
Mm.
of those clubs, we would have been out of business a long time ago. I mean, I've been shut down 3 times. I've been rated 3 times. The last one was the worst in our 10,000 square foot facility. And, that was one where, again, you lose it all, but luckily I got smart after the raid prior to separate my seeds from my grow.
Mm.
So I always had stock if shit hit the fan, you
I,
know?
I can't imagine how terrifying that was. Like, what, how, I don't know, what happened with the first time that ever happened? Sort of like, was it something personal, or like was it, I don't know, somebody you trusted or somebody?
First time was both. It was personal. Like the first time I had ever had like actual police guns to my head was I was doing something that I shouldn't have. I sold some stuff to a friend whom was an ex-girlfriend who was asking for to me to help, and it turned out that she had gotten herself into trouble and then plea bargained me and another buddy. Um, that was that, but that was a young realization. I was 20 years old, and
Mm,
it had nothing to do with weed, and it was a real quick lesson of oh shit can get real quick.
mm.
Then the actual, that was the first time with like guns to the head. Second time, it had to do with a neighbor of mine. He was getting raided, but because they saw him and me talking,
Oh,
they assumed that my unit was his and that we were working together. So we lost that one, and then the last one was because of a absolutely moronic move on behalf of my AC guy. He couldn't remember his password on our alarm system and set the hard alarm off,
oh,
which automatically sends the police out. And because it's a hard alarm, also known as an alarm where they feel there might be a home invasion robbery or someone being held hostage, the alarm turns off, but the police come full bore and have to search the entire building.
oh my God.
Yeah, that was 9,000 plants.
Oh my God. So what happens like when that at least happens? Do they come in and like kill all your plants, or do they just
Oh
like
yeah,
take
oh yeah,
they
they kill everything.
just
Everything gets. Yeah, they kill
oh,
everything. They take
oh,
all of the actual plant matter out, but they leave you all the trash. It's very polite of them.
oh, of course.
They're like, we're gonna remove all the plant matter, but all of the trash and all the mess that we made and all of that's all yours. Have fun cleaning it up.
Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah, and that one was fun because I actually walked up and I was like, "What are you guys doing here?" I'm like, "You guys have no reason to be here." Showed them all of our all the permits and everything that all the different shops that we were working with at the time that made us legal.
Oh,
Um, they didn't know, so they were like, "Sorry, do me a favor." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Turn around, put your hands behind your back." I was like,
they
"You son of a bitch!" And then
I can't
off to
believe.
jail I went. And then that one, that was, I think, aside from losing everything at that point in time, so you're talking like a half a million of equipment. I mean, I got the equipment, but I got one harvest out of the place, but
Oh,
built it out fully, did everything. We had equipment sponsorships, luckily. So, Powerbox donated equipment to us. Hydro Farm donated a lot of equipment to us.
well.
So it wasn't bad in that aspect of things, but I had 15 employees out of a job. you know so we had a lot of stuff that had to get changed on top of now I was facing a pretty hefty case. And I will say that's the only time in my life that my illnesses have actually helped me. One of the only times.
Oh, what illnesses? If you don't mind me asking, uh, I've heard a little bit, sorry, but I don't want to like get too personal. But I've heard about MS. That that's something.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I have MS, so that was one of the things, and pretty much the main reason why I did not do any jail time and or face any super 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 hefty fines was because my amazing lawyer Eric Shevin. If you're ever in Los Angeles and you need a lawyer, or if you're ever in Florida or you're in a few places that need lawyers, Shevin Law Firm, again, shameless plug,
oh,
but amazing. I could on all of every raid that I've had, but this one got me a judicial diversion because I was an actual factual person of why the law and everything was in existence. So because of that,
gosh,
that's the only thing that kept me out of jail.
I cannot believe. Do you think it's just weird? Swerve is the first person that ever really showed me. I guess beyond like the hustle side of growing cannabis, like back in the day, is he had MS and he gave me a whole different perspective on like the quality of growing and like just all the I mean all these different things of really wanting to give the best product you possibly could to people battling MS because I just saw this like I just saw how helpful it was to his life. Do you think that those that are struggling with MS, or do you think that I don't know, how has that affected your journey?
Big time. And I am unfortunately going to have to close out here, and I will be back in 2 seconds because my computer is dying, is dead.
Ah, so thank you so much, Swerve. I'm sorry.
Now
There
we're
we go.
in. We had the IT department come in here.
Thank you.
I know. I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. I don't know. Does it? But yeah, yeah. My computer died, so I was like, oh shit. Luckily,
No,
my phone
that was
technology.
that was so nice of you, and thanks for going through our journey of calling us back too.
When,
No, no
when,
problem.
when did you actually find out that you had MS?
Um. Shit, what am I? I'm 40. I'm about to be 43. So right when I turned 30. So 3 months before I turned 30, my left leg went numb. Then the next day, my right leg went numb. Didn't think much of it. Went and played some golf. Had this weird squeezing sensation in my waist belly area, and called my doctor from the parking lot of the golf course. And she was like, "Okay, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, my left leg's numb, my right leg's numb, like sciatica, but there's something squeezing my waist." She's like, "Can you walk right now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just played golf. Why?" I mean, I played pretty good because I couldn't feel my waist down. Literally, it was numb.
Oh my.
And then she's like, "Well, because what you just described to me was a stroke." And I was like, "Get the fuck out of here! A stroke? I'm not even 30 years old, and you just said stroke?"
Oh my gosh.
So she then was like, "You need to come to the hospital tomorrow." I went to the hospital. They did some tests, and then I got admitted to the hospital that day for 9 days. Was
Wow.
told that I had a disease called transverse myelitis, which is multiple sclerosis in one shot. So you get all of the symptoms of MS in one shot, and that's that. And then there was a big event that I was doing at the time in Northern California because the company was just starting to gain momentum, and I couldn't really let the momentum go. So I hobbled my ass to an event, literally cane and all, hobbling around, and relapsed and found myself back in the hospital right after the event for another week. Then I had my first infusion at the time, and then progressively just going to my doctor about transverse myelitis. And then one day he was like, you should really start thinking about your MS therapy. And I was like, my what? He's like, your MS therapy? And I was like, what exactly do you mean by MS? You said that I have transverse myelitis. He goes, oh, well, you've reoccurred now multiple times, and we've had to give you multiple infusions, and now you pretty much have full blown MS.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, and then it was kind of crazy because my mom has MS, and she's had MS for like 30 something years now. And she's, pretty able bodied. She limps and she needs a cane to walk and all that, but she's pretty able bodied. Me, and like she, in her 30 years, I think she's had like 6 infusions. Uh, I've had MS now for 10 years. So right before I turned 30, or 13 years, I've had probably about 35 infusions now.
Oh God.
Yeah, 30. I have to have an infusion every 6 months,
Oh.
because that's my medication. But then prior to that, it was like they were pretty much kind of keeping me walking there for a bit, and I was doing all the events and everything, so I was going hard in the paint because I didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring. So it was like, we going for this one now. There's no holding me back. So that's also where that brash ass attitude that I've had over the years comes from. It's because I literally live like there's no tomorrow. I live life for today, and I tell people that too, but most people don't comprehend when I'm like, no, I literally live life for the moment, for now.
It
You
gives me
know,
goosebumps.
yeah. I mean, hey, I was golfing one day, and then the next day I was admitted to the fucking hospital for 9 days. You know,
I can't imagine at that age as well, like going in like not. knowing what's going on, period, and then finding out news like that, truly, and at 30 years old, like, or not even, like, I just, I can't imagine like that shift in or moment in time, like for you to, that's something. And I think at an age that you would think that you're like at your best, you know, or like that you're, I think when
Right?
you're 30, you think you can take on the world.
Yeah. You know, no, that's exactly that. That's exactly that. You're like, I mean, I'm freaking lost. I'm 30, and I was pretty healthy because, I at the time I was still an avid snowboarder. I still rode mountain bikes and I still dirt jump and, I was doing all that crazy stuff, still digging, dirt jumps and digging, uh, berms and shit and having a good old time. And it was a really shitty reality of like, man, this sucks. I'm not gonna be able to do stuff. And here we are now, 13 years later, and my leg doesn't work. My half my
Oh,
body's like, fuck off. I don't thing. And I literally fight it to still be around and still fight to walk and do the best not to fall. But stuff isn't really made for people that have handicaps, unfortunately, in this world. And I
mm.
reference that to literally everything. It's kind of wild because you don't think about it when you don't need it,
No, you're right.
you know. And then all of a sudden you find yourself needing to not park so far, or needing to not have to take a staircase, or needing to have like a not really a polished floor but not really a sticky floor. It's the stuff that like certain people with MS have to deal with. It's wild. Like, you wouldn't think about, it's like a quarter inch little thing on the floor that sticks up a quarter inch will kill me, because
Oh,
my foot will get stuck on it and the whole body just falls forward. Nothing you can do. You're just like, timber, boom.
see, I think the bravery of like watching you and like travel or hearing about your travels and like doing all that you have done for so long and battling that at the same time, like it takes so much courage as a person normally that like to just go out of the country and take your business and really stick this out when you do feel shitty and like when times financially do like fluctuate and all these different obstacles naturally as a entrepreneur. But I think you having that on top of it, it just shows honestly sort of how beautiful personality you have and like drive to have stayed doing this like this for all these years.
Well, it is the drive, but it's also the other side of the fence of, what are you supposed to do? Curl up in a ball in a corner and feel sorry about yourself? You're supposed to sit there and say poor me, or cry over like spilled milk? What I constantly, it's like, even what I tell my son, and my son, he's 12, and I'm like, dude, Mike, you pick it up, you clean it up, and you move on, man. You pour yourself another glass and you enjoy it. Because
Yeah.
if you sit there and cry over that milk and you're like, oh my God, why did I do this? What happened? Holy, oh my God. You're never, you're just going to be stuck.
Mm,
And really, being stuck, there's no fun about being stuck. Movement, whether you're moving forward, or backwards, or laterally, you're moving still. There's still movement. You're not stagnant.
mm,
And that's really all it is for me. It's not because I have to keep moving, because if I stop, I'm afraid. I don't know what's going to happen if I stop. I don't know if I'm going to not work anymore, if the body's going to be like, you know what, that's that, thank
oh,
you.
we're
you
so,
know
I'm so grateful to hear you say that though. I mean like as a refresher for all of us, like to be reminded of. It's just such a great, I don't know. I'm really
you,
grateful for you.
you have to live life for the now, live life for the moment, enjoy every moment that you got. I mean, we see it every day on the news. Shit goes wrong everywhere. It don't matter nowadays. you know like,
Yeah.
enjoy it, live it, be grateful for it. Be grateful for it. That's just the reality. you know
I wanted to ask you too, is like I've seen a lot of changes in the last couple of years, financially in the industry and like investments and kind of just I mean like every aspect of it, price per pound, seeds, all the things. And I wanted to see if you've seen a huge kind of change from back in the day, like with doing these events and traveling around the world to like now when you're doing these events, like have the numbers like, have you seen a huge fluctuation between the years, or like, is that something that your business has faced?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely has been that. There's definitely the ebb and flow of the industry, the ebb and flow of the seasons, the ebb and flow of the amount of new competition. You know,
Mm,
that's just that's part of doing business. You know,
yeah.
that technically is business. You know, like that's the whole point of it. The crazy part is though, is like, you know, you think to yourself, well, how can you literally have the same amount, same thing, but tons of it? How can you have the same thing, but it all be different?
Mm,
How is it all different, but it's all the same? And you're like, it's all repetitive. Meanwhile, it's all different. And I know it sounds so stupid the way I'm saying this like this, and there's a reason why. It's because if you look at the modern day marijuana industry, it's all the same shit, just regurgitated and renamed and then repackaged and regurgitated, renamed, repackaged. It's the same shit, but it's just subtly different based off of grower abilities, subtly different based off of environment, subtly different if it was 4 lights or 40 lights or 400 lights.
yeah.
So it's like in that aspect of things, you know, it's I'm trying to think of another spot that I'd lost myself on. Great, yes.
Oh
Um,
no, you're fine.
no. You know, but it's um, oh, I lost my tangent there. Love it.
I feel well. I think that's the thing with like even cookies is like the reason I wanted to touch on that is not because of like shenanigans. Is just I think cookies is a brand that we all like can recognize and identify in the cannabis industry, and I think that is like a I don't know, any business person in this at one point in time would have probably wanted to do a collaboration with them or partner with them because that I don't know, the market was leaning in that direction. Um,
Well, with them, you have the extra publicity. You know, you have publicity that you can't buy, and that's Wiz Khalifa. You
I
know,
love that. And
Burner was tied in with them up there because of his shop, and he had access to all the rappers because of him doing that as well. You know, you know, you had the leg up. You know, it's like wondering why Woody Harrelson's brand does okay, or wondering why Be Real's brand does okay, or wondering why, you know, Montel Williams and whatnot. It's because they have a platform
yeah,
that none of us have. We're all trying to build this platform that they have been fortunate enough to sit there and have access to or have because of whom they are, you
yeah.
know?
Do you
So,
is do you mind if I ask how you guys got like affiliated to each other or like first met? Um, I don't know, with anybody from the cookies, like if it was Burner or like I don't know. I've just heard rumors sort of that you guys have worked together in the past.
okay, so where it all came from was this. It had nothing to do with Burner, had nothing to do with Pie Guy, had nothing to do with Mario Sherbinsky,
Hmm.
had nothing to do with any of them. So my connect to all of this was to Milo. Everyone's like, "Who's that?" Do some research. You figure out who Milo. So Maya and Milo, Maya doesn't like me so much anymore.
Hmm.
They used to be friends and have this business partner in the Bay that we would call Baby Jesus. His name was Randy. Literally looked like freaking Jesus. No lie. Like, he was just a short version of Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna freaking lie. Like he'd come in with the hat and his hair flowing. You're just like, bro. I mean, why are you off the wall here, man? Look at the picture of the dude on the wall. You know, so we called him Baby Jesus. So when I was looking up Harborside, we would always sit there and talk, and so that's when he started to slowly introduce me to the cookie stuff. And I was like, "What is this stuff?" And he was like, "Bro, check this out." And he would bring me over to his loft right there in San Fran in the Arts District. I mean, we're talking like 30, 40, 50 pounds of cookies, like different varieties of cookie shit, pink panties and all this type of stuff. So, me being me, since I was always at Harborside, I was also friends with Addison of Steep Hill Labs. at the time. So yeah, I was like, yo, bro, I got some of that new cookie shit. Why don't we test this stuff? And we'll say that we're the first to have it tested, yada yada. And that's kind of the beginning of our relationship with cookies. And that's kind of where it all happened, was because of baby Jesus Randy.
Baby Jesus Randy, I love it. I
And
think
then yeah, it was just it was, you saw all the stuff online from Burner and Pie Guy. Oh, Swerve don't know what cookies is, yada yada.
why were they like? What was that all about? With just
Marketing. It was
yeah.
all they felt threatened. They felt that I was taking their pie. I
Mm,
was literally released genetics again of their stuff because we had access to the stuff that nobody else had access to. We knew them. So, and it because it wasn't Burner and it wasn't, it was Milo, Maya, and Randy. So it was different. It was
mm.
the grower connect. We had access to the plant at that point in time.
Yeah, look.
So that was the problem, though, because I had access to the plant.
Dang. If
You know,
that's like every grower breeder's dream, though. I feel.
but the controversy that came with it at this modern day point in time, I don't necessarily know if it was really worth it because, difference that was put out there. I've had multiple addresses of mine released. I've had, you know, very interesting pictures of myself sent into, unscrupulous ladies out there that were posted and traded. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that people like Matt Riot still have pictures of me on his phone and like shit like that. But, at the end of the day, it was all to push.
Mm,
We had an opportunity in America to create something that was going to be what it is today. And
yeah.
am I sad? Am I mad? Am I bummed? Am I like, damn? Yeah, I got a little, maybe like some regrets, but really for the most part, I've got to live a life that people dream about. I've got to do stuff and go places that people can only imagine.
Mm,
I've literally traveled around the world because of weed, smoking weed around the world. Like, I mean, I basically, I mean, ask Jason, ask anybody, we live these quote unquote quasi pop star lives. We're not rock stars, but we get to piss in the same pond with those guys. But boy, do they got a way different bank account and bankroll than us and access. But we still get to kind of play around with them and call
mm,
them up on the phone and be like, "Yo, Shavo, let's go get fucking high later on." And oh, hey, B, let me hook you up with this. And so it's kind of cool in that aspect of things. But
mm.
there was, everything's got to have the goods and the bad. So we take it. We take it. We take those bad.
Yeah. I think I think somebody had a question. Hetty Bread is gonna get upset at me if I skip this. I'm sorry. I need to look at this really fast. I think he was asking about. Do you remember, Tyler, what strain?
Was it the Tahoe or?
Yep, it was the
Yeah, so
Tahoe.
tell us about your Tahoe.
All right, so Tahoe. All right, yeah, Tyler. So Tyler, unregistered extracts. He, me and him, he had this cut of OG, man, that nobody else had. It was unlike anybody else's stuff. We couldn't figure out why, where, how, when. We traced it back. Came from by way of Lassen County, which I don't know, which most people aren't familiar with, but there's Lake Tahoe, and then there's above Lake Tahoe, which is on the other side of the mountain, and that area is what's known as Lassen County. It's basically like a high desert, which is really weird. Most people don't realize like there's such thing as high altitude, but yeah, it's a high desert up there. And one of the guys that we got it from, just he would always talk about how he lived in Tahoe, how he was always just sending it to his boys out in Tahoe, and we were like, all right, bro, we're just gonna name it Tahoe then. Nobody's gonna know where the fuck Lassen County is.
Right.
I mean, it's like Paonia people. It's Paonia Paralyzer. Everybody fucking has a clue where the hell Paonia. Where? No, it's a town in the southwest of freaking Colorado. Nobody knows that.
No.
good weed. Nobody knows about Lassen County, so we called it Tahoe OG, and we attributed it to be one of the older OGs based on the fact of the history from what the person was telling us. In addition to the fact that Tyler had it for a while. So he was the guy that we had. I mean, we had the pre 98 Bubba. I mean, he had the pre 98 Bubba. He had I mean, Tyler was a big portion, and then between him and then my other buddy Wick, rest in peace, Eric.
Mm.
You know, most people in modern day marijuana don't realize they should be thankful to Wick. Wick is the man that not only connected the dots, but he was able to erase the blockage and clear paths that had already been blocked and or overgrown. And it sucks that life caught up with him. Way too early, way too young. But the reality is yeah, like the modern day marijuana really need to give it up to Wick, because Ives wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Eric. Um, I mean, I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's a bunch of other seed companies too, that wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Eric, and
Wow.
because of that, you know,
What was some of his like signature strains, Swerve, or like where he'd help you guys the most?
the hard to find stuff that he had the ability to convince people to be okay with trading him, knowing the fact that it was going to come to me, knowing the fact that we had a clone company, and that I was going to most likely sell the clone of it. So that was what it was. But because we amassed so many different genetics at the time, between me sourcing it, and then through Tyler as well, and then through Eric, and then I had my other caveat in the whole, which was Gail, who,
Mm.
whom is everybody knows him as Ape, a sexual propagation expert, who had an absolutely killer clone company for a long time. One of the first clone providers, like legit clone providers, had an actual storefront called People's Nursery Care down in
Oh,
San
wow.
Diego, where he just sold clones. You know, Ape was ahead of his time. We between Ape and Wick, modern day marijuana has all the genetics that they have.
Gosh, do you Swerve, by any chance, do you know Johnny OG with like the planetary line?
Everybody know Johnny, man. Come on now. Like, so, again, he had his OGs and whatnot. But the planetary stuff, everybody had different planetary stuff. Like, that's the thing that people didn't realize. It was like certain dispensaries out here, certain places. I mean, even like the Louis the 13th. Louis the 13th. You have Louis out there going around saying that that's him, that's him, that's him. But reality is it was the guys from Sun Valley Caregivers who had the Louis the 13th. So Johnny OG, he was around back then trying to do his OG, his company. And he did well for a little while, but then he realized life again caught up with people, and
Mm.
our curricular activities kind of catch up to us.
Mm.
Now, pretty sure now he's running a facility back east somewhere. I'm
Oh,
not
really?
positive. I saw a picture of him recently, all lab coated out with a whole bunch of facility looking grow. So I mean, you know how it
Nice.
is. Over there, we got to be all lab coated up and shit. Oh, trying to be super sterile, like we're working in a laboratory. Meanwhile, they're out smoking a cigarette.
It's so freaking true. It's so funny that you say that. Um, there was a question about the F1 Derb that you had.
Okay, I never had that. That
Okay.
wasn't. I had nothing to do with the F1 Durban. That okay. So F1 Durban, where did it come from? What is it? It's Durban poison, guys. It's just a Durban poison, and the reason why they call it F1 is because it, like you said, it makes you feel like you're getting high real fast. Um, I can't comment on that because unfortunately I've never had it. I've never smoked it. I've never seen what their version of Durbin of the F1 or But I again, he's a sore subject for me. Pie Guy and I, we're literally oil and water,
Mm.
more like gasoline and a flame, but it's the way it is. Um, but so like the F1 Derb stuff, I unfortunately can't really comment on because I don't really know. If I was to have somebody tell me F1 Derb, I would think it's the first Vallejo generation of a Durban poison
Mm.
being a leader, and or when I would hear somebody say it's because it makes you feel like you're a race car, I'd be like, well, yeah, it's a sativa. It's a land race sativa that's only supposed to, well, make your heart go 8,000 miles a minute because it's a fucking sativa. So it makes you feel like, yeah, you're going fast like a F1 car.
Yeah.
So I could attribute that. Like I said, I'm not trying to cause issues. I'm not trying to start shit with anybody. That's my take on hearing that type of verbiage. Like if somebody were to say that to me as a breeder, I would think of first Vallejo generation of a Durban poison.
Here's a question: Would, if the opportunity was ever brought up, would you just squash the problem? Like if it was able to be resolved, would you just, if there
Well, the crazy part is me and Burner, the last that I remember, I mean, maybe something happened between now and then, but we were cool. Me and Burner we made sure that we shook hands, high fived. That is cool. I would hit him up a couple of times, but if in Europe and whatnot, set him up with some people there, so like that was, that moot point. I would love to sit there and have a good old jolly conversation with Pi or whatever the hell his name he goes by
right?
these days.
Yeah,
You know, um, I'm always curious. Mario, I don't know why
Mm.
Mario ever had a problem with me. I just feel that the only reason why they had an issue with me was because they thought that I was taking money out their pocket.
right.
When at the end of the day, all I was doing was kind of promoting their product across the world.
Mm.
And I think it worked
Yeah.
because
Huh. Yeah,
the fucking dollars. Fucking Burner's about to be a billionaire here, and I don't have $1 million.
right.
So tell me, like, at the end of the day, was fighting with them smart? No. Was fighting with them beneficial for me? Not at all.
Mm.
Did
I
they
feel,
win? Yeah.
I feel like the weird part though is like there. I think if people really saw behind the scenes and like all the layers that go into these relationships and just you are working with this plant in genetics and like it just gets really sensitive. I think even if people are trying their best to like be respectful and courteous and I don't know, it's like it's difficult, especially with breeding and clone onlys and genetics. Is like they're valuable to people that like we really appreciate and value the plant, but it causes so many problems with who's supposed
Yeah.
to have something, who's not. I don't even know. It's
I mean, it's the truth. I understand that. But it's like at the same point in time, it was kind of like, where I was headed prior is like when you go down the Coke aisle and you want a soda, it's all the same shit. It's just different brand,
yeah.
you know?
That's
So why can't there be different brands? I mean, there's money. There's enough money for everybody here,
and I
you
love
know?
that you said earlier the way that people cultivate these actual plants and phenos and variations though everybody kind of has a signature to their own on their plants and like on their breeding projects or
Yeah.
yeah, it
I-
is a weird thing that we get so possessive.
and the funny part about all of it is like, you know, I drive a Jeep. Somebody else drives a Jeep. I look at that Jeep and I'm like, well, you know what? My Jeep might be a little bit better. It's a fucking Jeep. It's gonna get you from point A to point B. My weed and your weed. Am I gonna get high? Yeah, I'm gonna get high. I might not get high as fast. It might not taste as good. It might not look as pretty, but you know what? It's gonna get the job done at the end of the day. So much as we're like, damn, I want the best of the best. The
Mm.
reality is Ford sells a shit ton of cars. Honda sells a crap load of cars.
Yeah.
Ferrari, they only sell so many cars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like really the reality here is you know what? If we just be smart about it and stop trying to rip everybody off, stop trying to be the next big thing, the next hot thing, and just realize like, we could kind of feed the masses by just being good.
Yeah,
You don't got to be incredible all the time. You could just be standard and quality good
I love
and
that.
be okay, you know? So
Yeah.
like that's kind of where I see a lot of the weed industry right now.
Speaking of weed that doesn't look good, maybe do you like Skittles?
It's not bad. It's okay. Like the funny part is I've had some Skittles that actually looked pretty good,
Mm,
but lacked the taste. Then I've had Skittles, like you said, that looks absolutely like trash. You're like, what? And it tastes good.
good. Yeah.
Extract wise, I think a vast majority of certain phenotypes would be pretty flavorful because it would be very candy esque.
Right.
That being said, I think it's trash. I'm not really a fan of it, Like
Mm,
there's only certain things that I like, will really kind of reach out for. And it's crazy because I'm not gonna lie, man. Like if you look at my cabinet right now, I've got all types of crazy extracts, and I mean not extracts, but I smoke mainly rosin,
mm,
and a lot of the rosin that I have, it's pretty much very wide spectrum, and you end up going for the ones that you kind of realize don't taste a only sweet.
yeah.
You can only smoke something that tastes sweet for so. It's like eating food. You can only eat for so long, and then after a while, you're like, it kind of like not as sweet. Maybe just a little bit, a little bit bitter, but not as sweet. You
Yeah.
know. So smoking wise, you kind of run into that scenario, in that aspect of things. But when it comes to like the modern day flavors and stuff, it's candy.
It's
It's all
candy.
dessert.
Yeah.
So
It's all
true.
a you know. I
Um,
mean,
I mean, you can't you don't get old of smoking OG. That's the thing though.
that's a Larry.
You don't get tired of that, and that's the one. That's the tried and true. Like no matter what.
you don't.
Mm,
That's the part is it's because it's good. I made a comment. I posted a thing about a little competition that we're kind of working on. It's to bring OG back. To see not even bring OG back, just to get OG kind of back and going again, and get the OG growers excited about something in life that's not fruity pebbles and not Skittles and not
mm,
um, dessert tray. So it's crucial to have something that's gas and strong but pretty. It looks fucking amazing,
yeah.
and it hits a freight train.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part. The high doesn't just like come and go. It's like I'm stoned. I'm stoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
There's not very much like even smoking rosin that you get like lung expansion, and that's the one thing
Mm,
you miss from like OG, and just the fact that it's just like sedative like weed, like it just like is narcotic.
so true.
That's what makes OG. Like we used to tell people back in the day, right? We used to have the OGK1. People are like, "What the hell's that?" It's the knock you out one time. And they're like, "What do you mean?" It's the OG knock you out in one time. And they're like, "I don't understand." And then I get a call, usually about 2 or 3 hours later. Man, you're a fucking piece of shit. What the hell did I do, dude? You broke my bong. Like, what the hell, man? What is this stuff? And I'm like, bro, I told you it's strong, man. What happened? I don't know, man. I took a hit and I woke up on the floor. Yeah, yeah, now we know it's whiting out. We didn't know that then, but I was like, yeah, bro, that's that knock you out one time. You just drop. It hits you so hard that you just wake up on the floor, your bong's shattered, there's water everywhere, and you're going, what the fuck did I just do to myself? And we had people all the time calling us like, you fucking, that's just not right. And I'm like, no, it is right. That's the whole point of this. I'm trying to get fucked up here.
Mm,
I'm not trying to just get stoned. I'm trying to get fucking wasted. I'm trying to get fucking knocked the fuck out.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's the problem with the candy is it
Okay.
tastes good, but it don't do anything, and then you just sit there smoking gram after gram, and it's not doing anything,
Yeah.
and
that's
then
the
you're pissed because then you're like, what the heck, like that's not what it's supposed to be, you know?
well, you're pissed because you're not stoned.
Yeah.
You have to go back and spend even more money because you're not stoned. So in order to get stoned, you have to spend more money. You probably just
Yeah.
wasted money on something that, well, didn't get you stoned.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Oh,
but yeah,
I'm so sorry, Swerve. I just wanted Larry's one of my favorites. And I seen that you work with the Larry OG, like or have worked with the Larry.
yep.
Can we talk about some of the crosses
Well,
with
what is the
Larry or how
Larry?
you got? Yeah.
So the Larry that we work with, it came by way of our buddy Brett, who is OC. He uh, I thought it was marijuana saves lives, but I think he's cannabis seed bank or something of that nature. I have to figure out exactly, but one of those. I known him for a while. I actually traded him or I gave him. I shouldn't say traded. I gave him the Mendocino Purple Kush that I had, um, to help his wife with Crohn's disease.
Oh.
Um, make canna milk ultimately for her to help her out. So after a little while, he was like, "Hey, man, so we kind of became pretty decent little friends, obviously, because I just helped his wife. I helped him out to be able to grow it so he could help his wife. And then he was like, I like to reciprocate. I want to give you one of the cuts that we have here." And I was like, "Where's here?" He's like, "Oh, come on, man. I'm in OC. I'm in Huntington." I was like, "Okay." So, he's like, a bunch of biker buddies of ours, the Hell's Angels, whatever the fuck. I don't know what gang, but I'm pretty sure it was the HAs because I got that and the Hell's Angel OG. So I got the Larry OG and the Hell's Angel OG. So, he gave those, and the Larry was banger, but the Hell's Angel was the Larry on fucking steroids. And so that's kind of ultimately where it came from.
God.
Was Brett from the OC. And yeah, we just worked with it for a while there and start to pass it out more and more. And then the other company that actually has the same cut is oh crap, Skunk Master Flex.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice.
That
I
is.
mean, yeah, I work with the Donnie Burger that he did, and I mean,
That
obviously, that stuff's fire.
Yeah, so he has a Donnie Burger, and you'll notice that he has Larry OG like F like 6
Yeah.
or B 5, whatever. Yeah. Same Larry,
Wow.
same same mom. So
Dang, that's
that
dope.
so you ask him where it came from, he's gonna tell you it's from Brett.
Dang,
Oh.
that's
Do
awesome.
you have any cross that you did, Swerve, that you really liked out of with the Larry?
The Larry, there's a couple, but the Larry, just more like the pure Larry is kind of the banger for me.
That's cool
Ironically,
to
enough,
hear.
a lot of the crosses that we make, some of them I really like, some of them I'm not a fan of. Like the Deadhead, I'm a big fan of. The
Yes.
Blackwater, I can't stand for life of me.
What's the Deadhead?
The Deadhead's the Chem 91 to the SFE.
So
Okay.
good. I love
Yeah,
Deadhead.
yeah, it's strong. It's super strong. It's fuel. It's piney. It kind of again checks a lot of those boxes that you want. That looks good, tastes good, smells good, hits good.
It
Type of scent.
it grows with those orange hairs from what I've seen.
Yeah, has like the old school style orange hairs that everybody used to love.
Yeah.
Then the orange hairs to the red hairs. It's kind of funny.
Whatever happened to the Hell's Angels OG that you had?
You know what? I mean obviously I lost the cut in the raids, but I don't even know if it really even exists anymore of the way that it was, and if there was anybody who might have it still. This like this is hard, but it would be Fletcher from
Oh.
Archive.
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah, if anybody happens to have it still, it would be Fletcher.
Wow.
gosh.
Yeah.
Well, see, it's such a tight scene. These.
It Yeah, it is. And then, everybody's so prima donnas too that it's like, we all get our panties in a ruffle, and then it's like, oh, I cut you off and I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm never going to send it's insane the amount of ruffled panties in the marijuana industry.
I think
Hell,
that's why if anybody could look at the people that like unfollow you from Instagram, like how many people like you're a big deal when the right people don't follow you is because you know that there's like something that I don't know. I just think it's funny when you go through people's pages, you can see who's worked together and not because the people they actually know. They
you learn quick.
yes. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But I don't want to miss Swerve. Do you have any recent drops or anything that we can shout out or that you want to touch on before we?
Yeah, actually, back to that dessert tray.
Yeah.
We decided to cave in, um, but the gas is back. Don't worry, guys. I'm
Ooh.
pretty. But prior to that, we've already been working on this line that is actually near and dear to me. And the reason why is because growing up, I grew up pretty a sick young boy, and not like mentally sick, like literally health wise. Had mono when I was 5, and right after I had mono, I came down with viral meningitis. Like literally like 2 weeks later, they actually thought that I was gonna die and all this shit. Like I was on my deathbed type of crap and yada yada. So I was home a lot, and I was the one person that was always near and dear to me, which most is your grandma. So my grandma was very near and dear to me, and the one thing that my grandma would always make me for like every birthday or for everything, to cheer me up and stuff, was my favorite dessert, which was called Strawberries Delight, and so I had to kind of pay homage to my grandma in that. So we released we're just now about to release a whole Strawberries Delight line, which is our strawberry OG, and then the Strawberries Delight itself is actually strawberry OG. Ingmar's White Widow. So if anybody's really like into like knows their genetics, Ingmar is his White Widow that we used, which is one of the old school ones. It's one of the banger ones after Shanty and Neville, did their due diligence, and then we crossed that to our Strawberry OG. So that's our Strawberry Delight. Then we have a few different crosses that we're working with, to do our Strawberry Delight line. And that's going to be released here in America only. And then in Europe, simultaneously, which is happening sometime in the next like 3 weeks or so, we're actually dropping a European only line, based off of our Italian ice. So it's an whole Italian ice line that we're doing in Europe. So ironically enough, we got a lemon delight as well, in that, and a couple other, pretty good, dessert and mafia style names. Because the Italian ice line isn't like the fruity line. The Italian ice is more of a kind of a heavy hitting line. So it's not going to be a more of a dessert style. The strawberry delight line is more of a dessert style, but obviously everything that we do isn't just flavor. We provide a punch still behind it. So they'll still test at 26 to 28% THC, so it'll still be hefty, THC and hit wise. So those are the two, the two lines that we are going to be releasing here in the next very soon, very short period of time, like 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, I am counting down. I'm gonna be first on this list, but we will tag it in the show and we will announce it as soon as you're ready. Those sound
Appreciate
delicious.
appreciate, appreciate that.
And then your Instagram handle, I'll put at the bottom of the channel. Is there anything else that we can shout out to you, like where we can, I don't know, Discord, Twitch, YouTube? Swerve, what are you up to?
Ironically enough, I don't have any of those things, and I kind of regret that too. But no, I don't have any Twitch. I don't have any Discord. I don't have a YouTube. I don't have a Twitter, or not a Twitter. I have a Twitter. I don't have a TikTok yet. I'm still kind of Stone Age in that aspect of things. But
I love
um,
it.
the real Cali Connection Seed Co. is the Cali Connection Seed Co. And then, I think TCC Inc. I think is this, or the Cali Connection Inc. is one of the two. Are And then the shameless plug again, the Swerve Juice STS.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna swerve juice it up too.
Gotta Swerve Juice it up. That's just it's Swerve Juice now. Come on now.
We also have one more question from Dark Horse. Is he said strawberry OG the banner 5 cross question mark?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
the strawberry.
exciting.
Yeah, Bruce Banner cross to our OG.
Damn, we're excited to see this. This is gonna
Yeah.
be beautiful.
Yeah,
Does it?
red. It's weird. Like it's like a certain ones have like a red purple hue to them. It's kind of wild. It's like a magenta.
She's coming in hot.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see this.
yeah. It's a real. The strawberry delight is a real pretty plant. Like it's a pretty plant.
I need some strawberry delight in my life.
Yeah, we got you. That's all. Is we're gonna be out in Denver, I think, in 2 weeks anyway. So we all have to link.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes. Well, is there anything else before we close this out? I just don't want to regret this moment, even though I'm gonna beg for you back, Swerve.
What's your go-to Italian like meal dish?
Oh,
If you had to pick one desert island Italian meal,
panzerotti.
what is that? You gotta tell me.
Yeah.
Panzerotti is many are panzerotto, if for singular. It's basically it's a Barese thing. It's a Southern Italian thing. In Naples, they call it a fried pizza. On Bari, on the east side, we call it panzerotti or panzerotto. It's basically if you were to take a pizza, right, fold it over how you would assume a calzone is, which is baked. So take a calzone, make it way smaller, so like yay big. Where are we at here? Yay big, and you fry it.
Oh,
Oh.
that'd be
stop
bomb.
it.
Oh yeah, you fry it both sides. Salt, and you got usually you could put anything on the inside. Like for me growing up, it was just our sauce, and then some mozzarella cheese and a little bit of basil and rock and roll.
Ooh.
Nice.
I'm gonna try to find a spot in Denver for when you coming down, unless you know of a spot.
There's I forget where it was where we had some food that last time we were just out there that was pretty decent. Like Italian food, it varies. It depends on where you are, where you're from in Italy. You could be on the west side, the east side, the north side. It's all varies. And you throw it the south side, us Southerners, and it's our food's totally different compared to the northern part of Italy.
That is so suave. Tell your lady we're dressing up. We're going. We're doing it.
Definitely have some fun.
Well, thank you so much, Swerve, for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it and your patience through our technical difficulties.
Hey, well, I appreciate the swapping between the computer and the phone because of the killing of the batteries. So like I said, I just appreciate the thought to be on and a chance to just have a good old conversation. It was fun. I appreciate that.
So sweet of you. Thank you. We're gonna have our second Swerve Juice episode as well. You guys just
Look forward
wait. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening and tuning in. I'm gonna start a little outro for the night. Any last words, gentlemen?
Hey, keep it green, keep it safe, and always get connected.
I love it. Peace and love.
No.